This module is the opportunity to take students through a complete run of creating and testing a policy. We're going to use the most complex resource class, Jobstream, since the other resources are binary in nature. They're on and off switches. Filters can be applied to Jobstream names, business areas, and actions can be changed. So we'll start with Jobstreams. We'll look at the Jobstream template policies, clone 2 of them, and configure a simple security system. Then we'll test with both eEM and AAI tools. We're using a user called Chris. Chris is part of an AAI application user group called Ops Managers. He manages a specific group of job streams categorized in the business area Ops. He should have all permissions on these job streams, except the ability to delete, because the organization maintains a formal process for object removal. Since Ops Managers should have the ability to add and edit job streams, their user group must be mapped to the admin user dynamic group policy, or the buttons will be suppressed. We have already created the user group and associated it with the dynamic policy as shown by the user information at the bottom. This is the complete list of existing job streams. Chris should not be able to even see anything outside of the Ops business area. Let's outline the procedure. We need 2 job stream access policies. One resource policy is needed to determine the job streams Chris has access to. We'll access the job stream templates, clone the appropriate policy, and enable it. Then we'll add the identity, namely the Ops Manager group, to the policy. We'll use the resource field to narrow the scope of access to the Ops job streams to make sure all other objects are off limits. We'll run a permission check to make sure our policy is valid. Then we'll physically test the policy in the thick client to make sure we're in compliance with the requirements. Finally, we'll create a second policy for actions so we can add the ability to perform all actions except delete. We start in the eEM homepage and look at user Chris. Chris is indeed part of the Ops Managers group. We can tell that the group was mapped to the JAWS Administrator's dynamic policy because Chris is included in the group membership. Let's go to the Access Policies page and open the Jobstreams folder. These are the 3 Jobstream-related policy templates provided by AAI and loaded by the XML scripts. The first allows us to manage business areas. We're going to ignore this one for our demo. The second is the Jobstream add-delete policy. It grants or denies actions on job streams without regard for individual job streams as stated by the description. No resource name should be used as the policy will apply indiscriminately to all job streams. We simply enable or disable functions like add and delete. As shown by the description, the third policy focuses on resources. We use this policy to determine the job stream set we want to grant access to. All 3 policies are explicit grants and have all identities listed. Their mere existence means that job streams are wide open to any user part of a group associated with AAI in the eEM domain. Let's start by disabling these templates to make sure that the only policies we create from this point forward are valid. Let's start with the scope of access. We want to build a policy that restricts access to job streams in the Ops business area. We open the templates. We save as to a new policy, enable it, and add the identity Ops Manager. We remove the other identities for the sake of our exercise. Be careful when doing this. Our recommendation is to let JAWS users and JAWS administrators retain a no-risk view access at a minimum so the job streams can be seen. We're going to remove them for the benefit of our demo. The policy is Jobstream specific. As for all other policy templates, you should not change the resource class. There's also no need to change the type. The identity access control list type works fine. Let's update the identities. We can limit the scope of access to certain job streams. Resources are managed through regular expressions. Use star as a wildcard, all resources if you want to access all resources in the class, and treat business areas as folders. All job streams makes reference to the All Job Streams business area we're familiar with in AAI. Ops/star means all resources, that is to say job streams in the Ops business area. You could also explicit the job stream name or use regular expressions for character substitutions. As we just explained, when using AAI object names specifically in job stream policies, you should check this checkbox. Next, we set a filter and possible actions. This is needed or the thick clients will display an error message when you try and save. It should be understood that the three buttons Add, Edit, and Delete are potentially accessible by the user in the Admin tab thanks to the dynamic group policy, and they will be enabled when we create the second access policy. But not enabling the features here will still prevent you from saving. Next, we run a permission check. We run two tests on the view and delete actions. The resource class is Jobstream, the resource is one of the Ops job streams, and the identity is Chris. Let's make sure this is all reflected in the clients. Only the Edit button is enabled. The Add and Delete buttons are missing, which is consistent with what we explained earlier. The Edit button is there, but we need the Add and Delete Actions policy to enable the other two. We'll reiterate one last time that the only reason that this policy will have any effect is because Chris is associated with the admin user dynamic group policy. We're back in eEM. We can now create the second policy, which grants or denies actions generically on the resource, which is Jobstream. We check the delete box. This activates the button in the client, although the client won't let you save because of the resource policy we created initially. Still, let's assume this is a mistake and that we do in fact want the button gone. We'll have to come back to this policy. All three buttons are now activated. Let's remove delete. Let's consider the functional workflow for creating complete access permissions and restrictions. Obviously, there's more to this simple model in eEM, and there's multiple ways of doing the same thing, but this is a simplified use case which shows how we recommend doing things. We want to create an environment in which we have 5 users in AAI. 2 of them should belong to the admin role because they need to access admin type functions. The other 3 should be simple users. The first group, scheduler managers, should be able to manage scheduler connections. They should be able to create, edit, and delete scheduler definitions in AAI. Let's say the DNS name of the AutoSys host has changed, and this needs to be updated in AAI. We come to these individuals to make that happen. They should not have rights to anything else. The second group consists of 3 users that are operators. They should have access to everything as long as they don't have admin privileges. The 5 users exist in eEM. We start by creating 2 application groups in eEM, scheduler managers and operators, and we add the users in each. Then we clone the existing dynamic user group policies. We clone JAWS administrators into scheduler managers. This effectively enables admin capabilities such as add and deletes. Since every user associated with the AAI application is added to the JAWS users policy by default, no clone is required for the operators. Then we define access policies. For the scheduler manager group, we define a policy with an explicit grant on schedulers. We clone the scheduler policy and add the scheduler manager's application group as an identity. In all likelihood, scheduler managers will need access to reports as well, and so we do the same. Then we set explicit deny policies on all other topics, Jobstreams, custom action, property, and so forth. For the operator group, there's no need for access policies. JAWS users de facto will keep them from doing any real damage in AAI.